You know what's interesting about ADA is that I think I see similarities between ADA and TRVL. And I've also talked about this in the past as well. So obviously you haven't seen it, but I'll show you actually just out of interest. It's been interesting for me to compare, and I'll bring it up now so you can see, because I like to look at different coins and compare them, and it's just fun really. So this is Cardano on the right, and this is TRVL on the left. All right, let me just break up this connection. Are we on weekly? Yeah, we're on weekly. I'm just zooming a bit. So this blue line is the halving last bull run. Let me pull up my didn't delete my stuff, did I? No. I should have one. There it is. This is where I got some of my initial ideas for potential price action on TRVL just by looking at ADA actually. Let me just get rid of this channel. What else do I want to get rid of? Let me get rid of that fixed range. It's 2. When I saw an ADA that I don't really have any data before this moment in Binance, but I saw that when it launched from Binance, it was roughly about 9 cents, which is similar to, hold on. It's similar launch, and then it kind of expanded similarly in the first instance to roughly the same area. This is 1.56 on TRVL, and on ADA it went up to about 1.4, and then you had a sell-off. You had a pretty aggressive sell-off. So here you can see it sold, here you can see it sold, relief rally, sold into, here it sold. This kind of found support of the launch price, but then lost it. Similarly, it did the same thing. And then you had another sell-off, another sell-off. Then you had another relief rally, taking you back into the kind of 9 cents area. Same thing. Very similar in that kind of behavior. And then you had another sell-off. And you had another sell-off, right? Now, differences. Well, ADA didn't make an all-time low in the first instance. We have. TRVL has. So that's the first difference I noticed. Secondly, similarities. Well, ADA had this higher time frame trend line, which it broke and then lost and then came back above. What happened with TRVL is slightly different in the sense that now let me just get rid of those lines quickly. Clearer. I think we're looking, when you look at ADA, it went on the third attempt, it went through, which is very unusual for one of these trend lines. With TRVL, it didn't go through, it back tested and it sold into. So whereas ADA overshot and it oversold, we actually back tested and then back test and then supported. So I'm almost thinking possibly that this behavior here is very similar to this, possibly. I'm not 100%, but it looks very similar. And so where in ADA, it went and made an all-time low and then it sprung out of that, because it didn't really have a spring, because actually maybe this should have been the spring. We had our spring. So whereas ADA needed a spring, we didn't need a spring because we already sprung. And so we only tested. And that was before the trend line broke, whereas ADA had already broken it. It lost it, but as soon as it reclaimed it, the strength came back in. Anyway, there's a few similarities in that. So in my idea for the future was two things. Firstly, this first channel that I created on ADA, I'm seeing potentially a representation of it on TRVL. So the way to create this channel is from the launch price to the all-time high, to basically, although on ADA I've done it to, where have I done it to? I can't remember because I did it such a long time ago. Basically, I don't think it's even on this time frame, but I can't remember which pivot I used. Hold on. Okay, so what I did was on Cardano, I took it from the initial all-time high to the all-time high. Here, I'll delete it and I'll show you how I did it. And take it from the initial all-time high to the all-time high, and then to the launch price of, should be like, I'm thinking it's like 9 cents or something like that, whatever it is, to create this channel. And it's on the weekly time frame, so it's not 100% accurate. It's like it's an area, but it does kind of work. You see how it kind of resists and supports there, supports and resists. It kind of tries to get to it here. It does get to it here. It gets to it and then it breaks. So I'm kind of imagining this channel, and even though the midpoint didn't form resistance here, it's clear that here, even though this midpoint didn't exist, there was some sort of midpoint in that range. And again, it's a rough area, but here it does kind of work, and then here at the lows it does work. Back tests there. So I had this kind of channel in mind for ADA, and I was thinking maybe TRVL has the same kind of channel without even seeing future price action. I did exactly the same thing, but this time, rather, because I don't have an all-time high, I did it from the launch price to the pivot here, which would have been this pivot. So actually on ADA, that means that this channel would be a bit lower there, which would make sense, because if it's lower to that pivot, then it's that first all-time high, not the overshot one. You see it does line up to this pivot here. So maybe that's actually the correct channel. You see that? And actually when the price came in, like I said, sometimes going back on hindsight, you can do things a bit better. But actually that looks more correct to me, because see, look here, it touches perfectly, and here it touches perfectly. And the first time you overshot, and the minute you lost it, it sold. It sold off. And then when it comes back down into the channel, it looks like it holds. Potentially it holds. So I had that same idea for TRVL. So that's why I'm kind of imagining maybe TRVL is on a similar path as ADA. And we have to see how this plays out. The ADA path is this kind of roughly, is this yellow line that I've drawn roughly. And although in ADA we had this drop, I don't necessarily think this drop is going to happen, because I think maybe we've had the drop. It kind of, maybe that's what that was here. And so the next phase would be to get back into, test the top of that channel, which would actually put us at about 20 cents, which would mean that this is here, and then we are coming back to test 9 cents here. And then the next wave 3 wouldn't take us to the midpoint, but will take us all the way up above the all-time high. The 4 would keep us above the all-time high for a 5 push above this channel. I don't know how far it could get, but in my mind I'm thinking the 1.618. That's my highest kind of perception, but who knows. And the biggest difference with TRVL is that it's a much lower market cap, and it's in an unoccupied untapped space in crypto, so there's a lot of room for growth, whereas ADA is another chain. It's a layer 1 trying to compete against the rest. So it's not trying to occupy brand new space, it's trying to take market share from other crypto projects and other crypto ideas and coins and stuff, and create its own ecosystem. So yeah, so anyway, so that's by that was quite interesting. It's good that I looked at that, because actually now maybe this does look good, huh? This makes a little bit more sense.